Hello everyone and welcome to today's Moon Month Energy Update. Welcome back if you're returning, welcome if you're new. So in this video we're going to look at the incoming lunar influence for the coming moon month. Now a moon month begins with a new moon. In fact, at the time of doing this recording tomorrow we have a super new moon in Cancer. The astrology at the moment is mind-blowing, and it takes the moon about 29 and a half days approximately to navigate her way around the Earth. She's our satellite. And as she navigates around the Earth, she collaborates and aligns with the different planetary influences that are already happening out in the skies. Now, if you follow any really good astrologers, and there are some amazing ones here on YouTube, you'll probably have a fairly good idea of what's going on. If you don't, that's completely fine. Today, I'm going to talk you through the incoming energy of the moon, because the moon brings in certain energies depending on the moon phase, whether she's in her waxing phase or her waning phase, whether she's new or full or at the quarter moon points. There's a very distinct shift in the energy during each of the moon phases. She then moves through each of the signs, and so her energy kind of flows through the personality of that sign. Then she passes, of course, and connects with these planetary collaborations that are already happening. And all of these things have a bearing on the lunar energy as it comes in and lands, and we pick up on it. Many, many people are conscious and aware of the fact that the moon does have a very powerful influence on them, especially emotionally. So in this video, I'm literally going to go through all of these different moon phases and tell you about the energy, the incoming energy, and fill you in on what you need to know so that you can have awareness of what's likely to be happening, what you might be feeling throughout the entire moon month. Now, every kind of planetary collaboration, the incoming energy, the influences of the planets, they all have like a higher vibration and a lower vibration. Now, the energy is the energy. We can't change the energy, but we can decide how we wish to respond at any given time. So being aware of the kind of incoming energy, how it might be landing, when it might be landing, is really, really useful. And this video will help you to know how to navigate the moon month to your very, very best ability, particularly emotionally. So let's check this out. Now these are the different moon phases throughout the entire moon month. We begin with a new moon, followed by the waxing crescent moon phase, followed by the first quarter, followed by the waxing gibbous moon phase, then the full moon, then the waning gibbous moon, then the third quarter or the last quarter, and then the waning crescent. Each of these moon phases carries a very different kind of energy, a very different energy flow. And when we are actively working with the moon, when we're manifesting with the moon, we also need to be aware of any large void of course moon dates as well. A void of course moon is when the moon has disconnected from any other planetary alignments and is moving freely from one sign into the next. And this is a really interesting energy. It can feel very, very liberating, very empowering, very free-flowing. But if we have a lot going on, we can also feel a little bit out at sea, rather like being out at sea without an anchor point. So it's really helpful to know if there are any long void of course moon periods that we need to be aware of as we navigate the moon month. Now, our moon month begins with a super new moon on July the 14th in Cancer. Now, it's really worth remembering that the energy of a new moon creates a kind of imprint of energy for the entire moon month. Now, before I talk to you about the dynamics of this, I also want to just acknowledge that following this new moon, we have a 12-hour, 51-minute void of course period when the moon moves from Cancer into Leo. Now, let me bring myself back onto the screen. Let's talk about the energy of this moon. Now, as I said, a new moon creates a kind of an imprint for the whole moon month. Very, very powerful. This particular new moon is extremely powerful. She's powerful because she's a supermoon, which means that she's very close to the Earth. So there's a much higher level of magnetism. So we're going to feel this energy. But the astrodynamics that are going on at the same time could actually leave you feeling as though you want to kind of, I don't know, break free from restrictions. So whether you have anything internally holding you back or there are external circumstances that feel like they're in the way, you might find that you have really either itchy feet or you want to break free from something. Now you can use the energy of the Cancer new moon to set wishes and intentions that ask you or ask for assistance in releasing any blocks or getting through and beyond any blocks that are holding you back. You can also, because of the Cancer energy, which is so nurturing, you can also ask for the right circumstances to come in to then nurture your situation forwards, to really support it and nurture it forwards. So this is a profound time. Let me go through all of the astrodynamics that are taking place, that are present throughout the month, but present in the imprint of this new moon. Now, this is the chart for the new moon, and we can see the sun and the moon are sitting together. This is what happens at a new moon. The sun and the moon come together. It's like a divine marriage, a sacred marriage between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And they are sitting with Mercury, who is in retrograde. Now, Mercury retrograde tends to bring an energy of slowing us down, but sometimes through creating delays or hiccups. I know in the area I live in, there are roadworks everywhere. The purpose, though, of Mercury in retrograde, there is a higher purpose, is always to help us to slow down, to not be rushing from A to B, to take our time, to review, for things to show up that maybe we haven't quite fully attended to. And this is the kind of energy that's around. Now, we've had a Uranus-Mars conjunction. They're still close together. Uranus is very, with Mars, can create a really volatile energy. So we can see a lot of reactivity in the world. Remember, just as we said right at the start, every planetary connection carries a higher vibrational essence and a lower vibrational essence. It's what we ourselves do with it. It's not the energy itself. We can't change the energy, but we can choose how we use the energy, how we align with it. With Mercury in retrograde, we can really think about reviewing and reflecting, taking our time, recognizing that sometimes the slow road is important. We can stop and smell the roses. We can be an observer of our own experience. With the Mars-Uranus energy, we can really find opportunities that happen very fast and very quickly and very suddenly where we can take action. We may even feel that we need to be assertive or find higher-minded solutions to difficulties. But the lower vibration can be volatile. There can be an essence of frustration or even an underlying level of aggression. So really worth acknowledging this energy. However, we have this massively positive series of alignments going on at the same time. Uranus is trine Pluto, and Pluto and Uranus are both sextiling Neptune. Pluto is in retrograde, Neptune is in retrograde, so there's a lot of reflective energy. Gosh, I'm listening to that aeroplane going on in the background. I'm just going to close my door, see if that shuts out some of that noise. Interesting, isn't it? I always feel like when I'm in a reading, I always trust that everything that arrives with purpose. And what I have literally just done is I have closed the door to my little recording pod to shut out some of the noise. And in many ways, that is actually extremely appropriate advice for the energetics of this new moon. And this is an imprint that is going to be with us throughout this moon month. There is so much retrograde energy. We can reflect. Things may need to be revisited, but the higher purpose of the revisiting is transformation, it's change, it's higher-minded solutions, it's spiritual orientation. So this is the kind of overall flavour of energy. When the moon moves on from the sun, she's going to pass Jupiter. And Jupiter expands everything. So not only do we have a void of course period of nearly 13 hours, literally as the sort of new moon energy starts to diminish, but we have an opportunity for anything that we have wished for, any intentions we've set, to be enhanced and to expand quite quickly. And also potentially quite suddenly because of the activity of Uranus. Now, throughout this moon month, we have various other things taking place. On July the 23rd, the Mercury retrograde will end. However, we'll be in the shadow for a couple of weeks beyond this. On July the 26th, Saturn moves into retrograde, so more retrograde energy around. On August the 3rd, Chiron moves into retrograde. And it's actually on the exact day, July the 14th, the exact day of the new moon, that Neptune moves into retrograde. So all of these outer planets are now in this space of sort of standing still and realigning, which means that in many ways they are asking us to stand still and to realign. So we also, I just want to tune in with what's coming next month for one moment. We're moving into eclipse season next month. And this is an even bigger imprint. We will, at this point in time, already be beginning to feel the coming eclipse season. So there's a lot of sort of karmic energy, a lot of potential for synchronicities to take place, for signs and signals to arrive. So this is one very, very, very powerful new moon, but also one very powerful new moon that is extremely exciting because there is this sort of duality of energy. Let me bring me back onto the screen for a moment, because let me talk about this duality. Because there is within the dynamics the potential for tension, the potential for us to feel like we want to sort of react to things, to break free from things. But there is also huge potential to embrace transformation, rebirth, awareness, spiritual consciousness at the same time. So if we look at those two sort of energies in juxtaposition and we unite them, and we can do this consciously through awareness, we can really harness the energy. We can be an observer of our own experience. I mean, I really highly recommend this. Get still. Be an observer of your own experience throughout the entire month. Notice what is happening and constantly press the pause button. With all this retrograde energy, press the pause button and notice what's going on. And then think about it. You know, what's the bigger picture? Why am I being shown this? Why is it happening? And what can I actually do about this? Do I need to simply sit still and observe a bit more, or do I need to make a clear conscious choice? Are there things I need to let go of? Do I need to step through and beyond something? But always from a position of peacefulness, of higher minded values. This is the energy, and we can lean into it. I personally think the real key as a starting point is to become an observer of your own experience, to literally throughout the whole moon month consider pressing the pause button and having like little, it's what I call I have sight meetings with myself where I just check in with myself and I get an overview and I think, well, what's that about? And even if I don't know what it's about, I kind of lean into a place of trust, and I really want to lean into a space of gratitude and say, thank you for showing me this. Even if it's difficult, it will be, do you know what, this is quite tough to acknowledge, but thank you for showing me. I'm sure this is really good information. I will now reflect on what I can actually do about this. How can I empower myself, not in a reactive way, but in a really responsive way? And I can always choose that higher-minded perspective, the peaceful route. So this is how we can really use this energy. This is the imprint of the new moon, and it's with us through the month. And the retrograde energy is going to sort of get bigger and bigger because various planets, as I say, literally on the day of the new moon, Neptune moves into retrograde. Mercury already is. But, you know, Pluto already is. But with Chiron coming, Saturn sort of jumping on board, we've got very different reflective energies coming on board. You know, so with Saturn, real constructive, solid stuff in our lives may need to be reevaluated, really understood. With all the Uranus energy, things might change very suddenly. You may need to respond to things quite quickly, but try to do so in a really reflective manner. Take time out, press the pause button, be an observer of your own experience. Now, these are the new moon timings, and the reason I'm showing these to you, hopefully wherever you are in the world you can sort of get an approximate idea of the timings. The purpose of showing you these is because the new moon energy is at its greatest strength at the exact time of the new moon and for the 8 hours afterwards. So if you're going to set wishes and intentions, you kind of want to do them within that time bracket if you are able to do so. Now the moon then moves into her waxing crescent moon phase. This is from July the 15th to the 20th, and she will pass through Leo, Virgo and Libra. Now remember, following the new moon, we've had a nearly 13-hour void of course period. We have a massive void of course period on the 15th, 25 hours, 40 minutes, when the moon moves from Leo into Virgo. We then have another when the moon moves from Virgo into Libra that is 6 hours, 44. But the 25-hour, 40-minute one is huge. So be very conscious of this. Now, let me bring me back onto the screen to just talk about the flow of energy. Now, with a waxing crescent moon phase, this is when the moon is starting to get going. We've come from the new moon, we've set our wishes and intentions. And now, I always describe it as a car coming out of a parking lot. You know, we've set, with our wishes and intentions, we've kind of put our final destination into our GPS. And now we need to get going. The energy of this waxing crescent moon phase is set to flow. Even though we've got loads of retrograde energy, it really is primed to move forwards and to move forwards easily. So if there are any delays or any hiccups, be the observer of your own experience. Step back, notice, observe. There'll be a higher purpose to it. If you look at absolutely everything that is arriving, because there's also a little bit of a karmic influence, the moon will pass the nodes. In fact, the moon passes the south node. So if anything is showing up that's causing you to look back, it isn't because it's arriving to delay you or give you a problem. It's arriving to help you to see something that you need to process in order to then move forwards without any kind of hindrance. This is the higher purpose of the energy. So this really is a moon time when I want to say, go with the flow. And trust. Any delays, any hiccups, they are arriving with purpose. So notice them, listen to them, take them seriously, and then with real conscious awareness, no reaction, just responsiveness. Think about what you need to do to be able to move yourself forwards, to propel yourself forwards, because the energy wants to support you in moving. And if there is anything showing up that isn't in alignment with a sort of a clear pathway forwards, it's going to be shown to you so you can do something about it. Now the moon then moves into her first quarter moon position. This is on July the 21st, and the moon will be in Libra. Libra calls for balance. Libra wants harmony. And a first quarter moon is traditionally thought to bring opportunities to evaluate, but usually in response to external events and circumstances. Now remember, the moon has moved through a time when she's past the south node, so things may have been triggered from the past that you're needing to address. It's highly likely they could sort of come to a head today. Now, our beautiful moon is aligning with some very powerful planetary alignments today that are pushing for expansion and rebirth, and on a very big scale. Now, these connections are not without potential tension, but there is this balance, there's this sort of duality of energy. There are some alignments that are a little bit more challenging, but nevertheless arriving with higher purpose, and there are other elements that are really flowing. So if you are really, really wanting transformation and change in any aspect of your world, then using your own free will and conscious choice to bring your focus to your own personal empowerment through higher values, the energies on this quarter moon are literally going to be backing you 1,000%. Now, the moon then moves into her waxing gibbous moon phase. This is from July the 22nd to the 28th, and she's going to pass through Scorpio, Sagittarius and Capricorn. We also have 3 whopping void of course pockets of time as well. On the 22nd, when she moves from Scorpio into Sagittarius, this is 27 hours, 18 minutes long. It's huge. On the 25th, when she moves from Sagittarius into Capricorn, the void of course period is 22 hours, 46 minutes. And then on the 28th, when she moves from Capricorn into Aquarius, so right at the end of this moon time, ready for the full moon, the void of course period is 19 hours, 35 minutes long. Now, the energy of this moon phase is actually really, really strong. Let me bring me back onto the screen and talk to you about this. It really is huge. This is a moon time that people often feel emotions. They feel the gathering momentum of the moon. It's a bit like the energy in itself, the lunar energy, before you add any of the other planetary collaborations or anything else that's going on. It's a bit like in those sort of cartoons that I always think of it when I used to watch cartoons as a kid. And you take a snowball and you throw it down the mountain and it sort of rolls down the mountain, gathering snow, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it's ready to sort of, I don't know, take out a village at the bottom of the hill. But this is the kind of energy. It's building, it's gathering momentum. But rather than thinking of it as something that is negative, think of it as something that you can harness. People often notice during the waxing gibbous moon phase that their emotions are building. They're getting bigger and bigger. And then there's a sort of a breakthrough point at the full moon. So be the observer of your own experience. Now, aside from these void of course periods, which could also escalate that feeling of things moving very quickly, the moon will be moving through Scorpio, Sagittarius, and into Capricorn. So think of the flow of energy and how we use that higher vibrational energy with our personal intent. When the moon moves through Scorpio, it's highly likely that things might come to the surface, whether that's internally or externally. There are things that maybe need to be brought to the surface that we need to see. When the moon moves into Sagittarius, so that we can sort of realign, we can see the truth of things, and through conscious awareness, begin to sort of see where we need to go with this. And when the moon moves into Capricorn, we can take proactive, practical, pragmatic actions in response to what we have been shown. So there's a really powerful energetic that we can use here. I always think if you, in this sort of waxing gibbous moon time, remember that just because emotions are going to be building, think of your emotions as energy in motion. Your emotions are here to serve you, even the more difficult ones. If you're shown something and it makes you feel difficult, or something's happening in your world and it's raising difficult emotions, it's not to sort of crush you or put you down. It's actually here to assist you, so that you can do something, you can see what's working for you and what isn't, and you can then plan accordingly. And you can use that energy, that emotional energy, to drive you forwards, to take action. If you think of your mind as being like this at the steering wheel of your car, your emotions are the fuel in the tank. Without them, you can't really get anywhere. Literally, emotions are energy in motion. I think one of our greatest tasks as a collective humanity is to understand our emotions from a position of consciousness and actually learn to work with the energy that they give us. So this is a moon time when we have a really good opportunity to do exactly that, to really harness this energy and to learn to use it from a very, from a position of conscious awareness. We then have a full moon in Aquarius. This will be on July the 29th or 30th, depending on where you are on our beautiful planet. And the energies of this full moon are literally something else. On the one hand, there are huge, expansive energies that are fueling and expanding, that want change, that want rebirth. On the other hand, there are some really big underlying tensions that could create some sparks. Now, if these are sparks of passion that are being channeled in a really creative way, then all well and good. But if there are underlying frustrations in your world that haven't been recognised, or you haven't been able to have a voice, this is a moon time that could literally bring them to the surface and with velocity. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the world globally, as well as what happens within the personal areas of our own lives. The moon also links in with some really profoundly spiritual dimensions that promise new opportunities, higher visions, and these are channels of sort of higher-minded insights that could arrive unexpectedly and yet really, really offer us key solutions that are maybe even out of the box or interesting or different, that are arriving to enable changes that can then flow easily and fluently. So it's a really, really powerful full moon. Let me bring me back onto the surface for a moment. Sorry, isn't that interesting? That's a little Freudian slip, bringing me onto the surface. This is what the full moon does. The full moon shows us things. The full moon illuminates what we need to see so that we know what we need to release, as well as the pathway forwards. When we get to the exact timing of the full moon, I'll bring up the timings in a second. When we get to those exact timings, sometimes if you're able to be still enough on that day, you'll literally feel the energy shift. It's a perfect time to sort of lean into a release ceremony where you let go of things and then invite in illumination to show the next steps forwards on your journey. But this full moon is really, really big, really powerful, because there are some sort of underlying tensions that are very, very strong. It's such a mixed bag. I almost feel like visually I see it as a sort of like a triangle of energy, where there are things that need to surface because we really, really need to do something about them. There's higher-minded solutions, spiritual awareness to assist us. And then another dynamic again that is saying, right, let's embrace change, let's embrace rebirth, let's make it all happen. As always, it's how we use the energy. If you have a lot going on in your world at the time of this full moon, beautiful souls, do your utmost to embrace a day of self-care. Look after you. If there are things that you can shelve, you can put to one side, not attend to until you have allowed yourself to absorb the full moon energy and see what's illuminated, then I would highly recommend doing so. I'm a great believer in never telling anyone what to do. In the same way, I don't think our guides and our angels ever tell us what to do. You know, the universe can send pockets of guidance to us. It's up to us what we do with that. We have conscious free will and choice. But truly, this is a full moon when the energy is strong. And I think it's really worthy of noticing, because even if your world is reasonably anchored, grounded, you're fully aware, it's highly likely there'll be people around you who are not in the same position, who don't have an awareness of these dynamics, who don't maybe walk, a pathway of spiritual awareness. It takes all sorts to make a world. You know, we're all different, but people can be very reactive around a full moon, and this is highly likely to be a biggie. So take care of yourself and take care of your own energy. Nobody else is in charge of your energy. You are. If your buttons are pressed, they're your buttons. Think about what you want to do. Really embody a day of self-care if you're able to. And if you have a full-on day, then within that day, try to take pockets of like little stillness breaks where you just recenter, realign, make a note of anything that's going on with a view to coming back to it when the energy eases and settles down a little bit. Now, these are the full moon timings. Wherever you are on our beautiful planet, check in on the exact time and just see if you can take a stillness break at around that time. Obviously, if you are somewhere like Sydney, Australia, and it's literally in the middle of the night at 00:35 in the morning on Thursday the 30th, it may be that you are asleep and wonderful, though you may actually find you get some sort of prolific or very vivid dream at this time. But please be conscious of the timings, because it may well be that there is quite a big shift in the energy, and it could also be that something is fully illuminated for you in that moment. The moon then moves into her waning gibbous moon phase. This is from July the 30th through to August the 5th, and she will pass through Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, and into Taurus. We have 3 void of course periods that are worthy of note. They're not quite as big as some of the others we've been having, but nevertheless they are worthy of being aware as well, because there is quite an underlying tension still coming in waves during this entire moon time. Now, on the 30th to the 31st, we have a 14-hour, 47-minute void of course period when the moon moves from Aquarius into Pisces. On the 2nd, we have an 8-hour, 4-minute void of course period, Pisces into Aries. And then from Aries into Taurus on the 4th, 7 hours, 44 minutes. Now, there is quite a high level of tension still in this waning gibbous moon time. It kind of comes in waves, though. They're not all as strong, but some of them are. And emotions could still run high. And some of these emotions could be challenging. Fortunately, there are still some really, really, really overall positive astrodynamics that are really supporting transformation. I always feel this is a bit like a birth. Where, sometimes we push, sometimes we breathe. Things are always moving forwards. Some contractions feel stronger than others. Some feel more challenging than others. Sometimes a birth can really flow. Other times it can feel like it's more difficult. It's sort of got this energy around it. There's also a very distinctly karmic feel to it as well. Now, there's also an energy that supports what I would call self-mastery through awareness and recognition of our personal choices. Let me bring me back onto the screen. Let's talk about this. So I feel as though that the waning gibbous moon phase is a moon time which I feel is like seriously underestimated when we're manifesting. Often when we get to the full moon and the energy breaks, it's almost like we breathe a sigh of relief and kind of step back. But actually, the energy still has a lot of momentum in it during this moon time. It's kind of easing, but it has momentum. And there's real opportunity during the waning gibbous moon time to sort of almost like to course correct, to tweak. Conscious awareness, creating change through conscious awareness is really in alignment with this moon phase. And the overall astrodynamics are also really supporting this. So if the full moon felt very, very strong, which it may well have done because it just is, that's the energy, this is a time when you can almost, if you were able to take time out with the full moon and make a kind of a list of everything you were shown, this is a moon time when the energy will support you in easing off and looking at things, look at your list, check them off, and then pushing forwards. When there's a push of energy, of using that to push yourself forwards, to take some actions towards creating change, whether you're sort of almost like realigning yourself with your intentions, whether you're working out what you actually need to do, planning ahead, whether you are internally observing yourself and your own responses. However you use this time, it can actually potentially be very constructive, even though there are times when it's going to be really quite strong. Think of it like waves on a beach. You're sitting on a beach and the waves are coming in quite nicely around your feet and it feels refreshing, and suddenly you get a bigger wave. That's probably the time you need to take action. But if you're conscious that the energy is coming in waves and you're aware of that potential, then it's almost as though you can look out for them. In fact, a better analogy? Rather than sitting on a beach, what if you're out in the sea on a surfboard? It's the bigger waves you want to ride. I think that's a much better analogy of this energy. You're lying on your surfboard, you're noticing, you're looking at the lay of the land. When a bigger wave comes in, jump on your board and ride it, surf the wave. When it's smaller, just allow it to pass, notice, observe, and regain your focus. Help you to align almost like where the tides are, where the currents are. Get the lay of the land or the lay of the water. But when a big wave comes in, I think you can really use that energy rather than feeling bowled over by it. And I think that's honestly the best way that we can use the energetics of this moon time. So let's now think about how this energy moves into the last quarter moon position. This is on August the 5th or 6th, depending on where you are on our beautiful planet, and the moon will be in Taurus. Now, the first thing I think to notice about the last quarter moon position is that it's kind of sandwiched between two void of course periods. The first, on the 4th, is 7 hours 44 minutes long, when the moon moves from Aries into Taurus. And the second is on the 6th. It's 6 hours 43 minutes long when the moon moves from Taurus into Gemini. So think about that void of course energy, when the moon energy, the lunar energy, is kind of free flowing. We can feel a bit out at sea, or we can feel really, really positive. Now, the dynamics of this last quarter moon actually do suggest the potential for confident or even bold actions. However, there is a kind of an interesting duality to this, because there's a lot of sort of creative energy around, but also the potential for maybe some almost overconfidence or over-idealization. In fact, let me bring myself back onto the screen to talk to you about this. So a last quarter moon naturally kind of invites us to walk our talk, to step up. You know, are you being the change that you wish to see in the world? Are your actions, are your thoughts, are your deeds in alignment with what you want to create, with your vision of the world that you want to see? And the last quarter moon sort of almost asks us to align with this. Now we have this really interesting duality. There's a big burst of sort of creative potential with a lot of sort of like confidence. It almost reminds me of the tarot card of the star, sort of almost like if you put the tarot card of the star into Leo, that kind of combination. It's like, ooh, let's get going. This can really happen. But it could be so enthusiastic that we sort of forget to be anchored, particularly because we're sandwiched between two void of course periods, and the voids can things can escalate, they can expand, they can flow. So I would really recommend using this last quarter energy to check in with yourself, be confident, take bold decisions, but make sure they are genuinely in alignment, not only with what you want to see, but also in a realistic way. So you're not doing anything that would then almost like overstep your own capacity. So really embody your own self-care, and back to that imprint of the Cancer new moon right at the start of the month. Think about embodying nurture rather than full-blown let's make it happen now. Add the nurturing imprint of Cancer and move forwards with enthusiasm, with creative spark. But yeah, do so in a sort of a gentle, nurturing, kind of realistic kind of way. And I think if you can align those energies with whatever's happening in your world, I think you'll be on a winner. Now the moon then reaches her final moon phase. This is the waning crescent moon phase, and this is from August the 7th to the 11th, and she will pass through Gemini, Cancer and Leo. There's also one very, very, very big, huge, mammoth void of course period on the 10th, 25 hours, 7 minutes long, when the moon moves from Cancer into Leo. Now, the last quarter moon had an exuberance, a kind of confidence about it. The energy and the flow of this particular moon phase suggests the opportunity for some real solid reality testing. Initially, the energy flows really easily, so I would like to say enjoy, because it does then kind of heat up a bit. And you may find that there is a clash between your desires and also sort of realistic expectations. There's also a huge emphasis on communications. There could be really amazing communications that are very balanced and help to validate and acknowledge things and move stuff forwards, but there could also be conversations and communications of friction. Now, as always, the energy is what it is. It's what we do with it. You know, we have a choice. Let me bring me back onto the screen again. Now, this is the deal. The energy is what it is, and I think this is part of the whole movement of humanity moving into the zone of higher consciousness as a collective. The energy is the energy. It's always what we choose to do with it ourselves. I sort of feel for this last moon phase, given that the moon is diminishing in her energy, it's very much a moon phase where we can look internally. And I would say because the energy is quite strong through the moon phase in terms of the overall bigger picture, and the moon is linking in with some very, very strong planetary collaborations, it is a really, really good time to kind of look within and think about yourself as the source of your own empowerment. Empowerment is never power over others. Empowerment is power over ourselves, and indeed power over the emotional content very often when we're working with the moon. And what lands with us and what we then do with it. Are we reactive or are we responsive? I think this could be a pocket of time when there's quite a lot of intense communication. Now, whether we see that globally, whether it's happening literally in our relationship with ourselves or relationships with others in the intimacy of our lives or, with our wider communities, wherever this is sitting, there could be some quite intense conversations. Now, they could be passionate, creative, really exciting, but there could be friction as well. Now, remember, friction can gain traction if we are using the energy well. If there was ever a moon month when it's valuable to listen to that first imprint, that lovely essence and energy, the higher vibrational essence and energy of Cancer, nurture. Observe, nurture, be compassionate. Notice, in fact, if you think about the word compassion, it literally, in French, it's like compassion, compassionate, with passion. But when we are compassionate, we can feel the passion, but we can navigate through kindness. And I feel that there could be communications that may be quite a mixed bag at this time. And, whether that's globally and we're looking at the way that communications are happening or are indeed not happening and we're sort of tearing our hair out, or within our own world, we can be having some joyous communications, finding resolutions through awareness, but also struggling when there's a lack of responsiveness or a lower vibrational consciousness going on around us, or as I said, even in the bigger picture in the global world. The key, because the moon is in her last moon phase, she asks us during this time to reflect and look within, to really consider what we ourselves can do. It's like the serenity prayer. God, give me the wisdom to recognize what I can do, to recognize what I can't do, and to know the difference. Now, I know it's worded much better than that, but that's a really good way of summing up the waning crescent moon phase. Bringing that empowerment back to ourselves, but in a very gentle, internal, reflective, spiritual way. That's the best way to use this energy. And because the overall dynamics are strong, really, really be conscious of this. Beautiful souls. We then, of course, start a brand new moon month. We move into eclipse season with a new moon, which is super exciting and very, very powerful. Eclipse season brings about massive karmic changes. Now, I'm going to talk about all of that when we get to next month's moon month update. Do make sure you subscribe and press the little bell icon if you want to make sure you know as soon as I upload that. And likewise, if you want to tune into any of my readings or anything else that I post here, any free events, free webinars. Once a month I do an online event where we actually read our cards together. We go into a meditation. It's always just before the new moon. We go into a meditation, we tune into and align with the energy of the new moon and the coming month, and we draw cards together. I draw for the collective, you bring your cards and draw for personal messages for yourselves. So do check those out. If go to the homepage of the channel, check out all the moon playlist, and you'll find all these videos and events in there. Beautiful souls, I am sending you all the love in the world. I wish you an amazing moon month. If you are interested in manifesting with the moon, do check in. I've also have a free webinar. I'll put the link below, where you can look at the 5 keys, the 5 essential keys of awareness that you need to know about if you want to successfully manifest with the moon. It's a completely free webinar. I've recorded it. You can watch it anytime. So do check out those things if they are of interest to you. And thank you so much for being here. Loads and loads of love.